Mama, I'm sorry. Now I see if I could start over, I would choose you.
My daughter, please don't say that. I am here with you and I will always love you.
Mama, you warned me and I didn't listen. I thought being an influencer, being known, is the right way. I never knew I would end up like this.
Sophia, you will be fine.
If Sophia could go back in time, there is one decision she would change. Just one. Because that single decision gave her fame, gave her money, gave her the luxury life she always wanted, but it also took away everything that truly mattered. This is the heartbreaking story of a girl who traded real love for a glamorous illusion. Nobody ever told Sophia that the life she was running toward was the very thing that would destroy her. She did not know it then. She was too busy dreaming. Too busy scrolling through her phone late at night, watching other people live the kind of life she believed she deserved. Beautiful women in designer dresses stepping out of expensive cars. Smiling faces on yacht decks. Hotel rooms with views of glittering city lights. Sophia would watch those videos for hours, her heart burning with a hunger she could not explain. And every time she put her phone down and looked around at the small house she shared with her mother, something inside her would twist with pain. This is not my life, she would tell herself. I was born for something bigger than this. Her mother's name was Margaret, and she was one of the hardest working women in their village. Every morning, before the sun had fully risen, Margaret was already on her feet. She would tie her wrapper tight around her waist, load her goods into a basket, and walk to the market. She sold tomatoes, pepper, onions, and sometimes dried fish. It was not a glamorous life. Her hands were rough. Her feet were tired by afternoon. But she never complained, because everything she did for Sophia. Every coin she earned went toward her daughter's food, her school fees, her clothes. Margaret sacrificed quietly, the way mothers do, hoping her daughter would one day understand. But Sophia was not paying attention. She was too busy watching strangers on social media live the life she wanted. One evening, Margaret sat beside Sophia on the small wooden bench outside their house. She had just returned from the market, and her feet were aching, but she smiled anyway. Sophia, she said gently, come and help me sort these peppers. We can talk while we walk. Sophia sighed and barely looked up from her phone. Mama, I'm busy, she said. Margaret was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke again, her voice soft but serious. My daughter, I have been watching you. You spend all your time looking at people on that phone. But those people you are watching, they worked for what they have. Nothing good comes without effort. Sophia finally looked up, her eyes flat with boredom. Mama, you always say the same thing. Work, work, work. But look at us. You have been working your whole life and we still have nothing. Margaret felt the words land like a slap, but she did not flinch. She looked at her daughter carefully and said, we may not have everything, Sophia. But we have each other. And that is not nothing. Sophia said nothing. She looked back at her phone. That night, as Sophia lay on her mat staring at the ceiling, she made a silent promise to herself. She was going to leave this village. She was going to find a way to have the life she had been watching on her screen. She did not know how. She did not know when. But she was certain of one thing, she was not going to spend the rest of her life sorting peppers and going to sleep tired. She wanted more. She deserved more. At least, that was what she believed. What she did not yet understand was that wanting more is not a sin. But wanting more than your character can carry will always cost you something. And for Sophia, the price would be everything. Before we begin, if you love emotional stories that teach powerful life lessons, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Every story on this channel is designed to touch your heart, open your eyes, and leave you with a lesson you'll never forget. Now, let's begin Sophia's heartbreaking story. The opportunity came faster than Sophia expected. A few weeks after that evening on the bench, Margaret called her daughter into the house and sat her down. Her expression was calm, but there was something hopeful in her eyes. "Sophia," she began, "I have been speaking with my sister, your Auntie Grace. She has a jewelry shop in the city and she is doing well. She has agreed to let you come and stay with her. You will help her in the shop, learn how to run a business, and maybe the change of environment will do you good." Sophia stared at her mother. For a second, she thought she had misheard. The city. She was being offered the city. She tried to keep her face calm, but inside, her heart was doing cartwheels. "When do I leave?" she asked, and Margaret almost laughed at how quickly the question came. Auntie Grace was Margaret's younger sister, and everything about her was polished and elegant. She lived in a clean apartment above her shop, wore her hair in neat styles, and always smelled faintly of something expensive. When Sophia arrived at the city bus park with her small bag, Auntie Grace was already there waiting, dressed in a fitted Ankara blouse and dark trousers. She hugged Sophia warmly and held her face in her hands. "Look at you," she said. "You have grown so much. Your mother's eyes, your grandmother's cheekbones." Sophia smiled shyly. She liked Auntie Grace immediately. There was something about her that felt different from the village, something city-polished and self-assured. As they drove through the streets in Auntie Grace's small car, Sophia pressed her face to the window like a child seeing snow for the first time. The buildings were tall. The roads were wide. There were malls with glass fronts and restaurants with neon signs and women walking in heels on the pavement. "This," Sophia whispered to herself, "is where I belong." The first few weeks in the city, Sophia was on her best behavior. She woke up early, helped open the shop, arranged jewelry in the display cases, smiled at customers, and learned how to process payments. Auntie Grace was impressed. "Your mother would be happy to hear how well you are doing," she told Sophia one evening, and Sophia nodded, genuinely pleased with herself. She was beginning to understand that Auntie Grace had not built her business by luck. She had done it through patience, consistency, and hard work. For a brief, precious moment, something in Sophia began to shift. She started to see that maybe her mother had been right. Maybe the path to a good life was not as glamorous as she had imagined, but it was real and it was solid. But then, on a Tuesday afternoon that would change everything, two women walked into the jewelry shop, and Sophia's carefully budding discipline crumbled like dry clay in the rain. They were tall, beautiful, and wrapped in an aura that Sophia had only ever seen through a phone screen. Designer bags hung from their wrists. Their nails were long and perfectly painted. They laughed loud and moved with the confidence of people who had never been told no. Their names were Tara and Vivian, and they were two of the most followed lifestyle influencers in the city. As they browsed the jewelry, Tara spotted Sophia behind the counter and stopped. "Oh my God," she said, tilting her head. "Who is this girl? Have you been hiding her?" Vivian leaned forward, studying Sophia's face. "She is stunning." "Girl, what is your name?" Sophia blinked. "Sophia," she said quietly. Tara pulled out her phone. "We are doing a video. Come on, get in." And just like that, without knowing it, Sophia had stepped onto a road she could not find her way back from. The video posted by Tara that evening had over 40,000 views by midnight. Sophia watched the number climb from her phone, her hand trembling slightly. People were commenting things like, "Who is this girl?" and "She's so beautiful," and "Tag her. I need to follow her." Sophia had never felt anything like it before. It was warm and electric and addictive all at once, like someone had switched on a light inside her that she never knew existed. She lay in her bed that night unable to sleep, refreshing the video every few minutes, reading every comment, feeling each one land on her skin like sunlight. For a girl who had grown up invisible, suddenly being seen by thousands of strangers felt like the greatest thing that had ever happened to her. Tara and Vivian began visiting the shop more frequently after that. They brought Sophia small gifts, a lip gloss, a branded scrunchie, a perfume sample. They called her their hidden gem and their little sister. They invited her to a fashion event on a Saturday afternoon, and when Sophia asked Auntie Grace for permission to go, her aunt hesitated. "Who are these girls, Sophia? How well do you know them?" Sophia smiled reassuringly. "They are good people, Auntie. They are influencers. They are helping me grow my social media." Auntie Grace studied her niece's face for a long moment. Something in her gut pulled at her, a quiet unease she could not quite name. But she did not want to be the one who clipped her niece's wings. "Be back before 8, she said finally. Sophia was out the door before she could change her mind. The fashion event was held in a hotel ballroom that looked like something from a movie. There were photographers, free champagne on trays, women in elaborate outfits, and music that thumped pleasantly through the floor. Tara and Vivian moved through the room like they owned it, introducing Sophia to people whose names she immediately forgot but whose clothes she would remember for weeks. A photographer asked to take her picture. A brand ambassador asked for her Instagram handle. A woman in a red dress told her she had the kind of face that belongs on a billboard. Sophia laughed and said thank you, but inside she was screaming with joy. This was the world she had imagined from her small village. This was what she had been scrolling toward for years. And now she was inside it, standing in heels, wearing a dress Tara had lent her, being photographed and admired. By the time she returned home that night, at 10 o'clock, not 8, Auntie Grace was sitting in the living room with the lights on, waiting. "I said 8, Sophia." Her voice was quiet but firm. Sophia set down her small purse and sighed. "I know. I'm sorry, Auntie. I lost track of time. It won't happen again." Auntie Grace looked at her carefully. "Those girls, Sophia. I need you to be careful. The city has a way of wrapping things in gold paper so that you cannot see what is really inside." Sophia nodded, but her mind was already somewhere else. She was thinking about the photographer, about the woman in the red dress, about how her follower count had jumped 200 in one evening. She nodded and said goodnight and went to her room and fell asleep smiling. She did not hear the worry in Auntie Grace's silence. Or maybe she heard it and simply chose not to care. Weeks passed, and Sophia's new life began pulling her further and further from the jewelry shop and from Auntie Grace's quiet living room. She was going out almost every weekend now, to lunch parties, rooftop dinners, boutique openings, hotel lounges. Her social media was growing steadily, filled with photos that Tara and Vivian helped her take and edit. She learned how to angle her face for cameras, how to pose beside expensive things she did not own, how to write captions that made strangers feel like they were missing something wonderful. Her mother called sometimes, and Sophia would answer with a bright, distracted voice. "I'm doing great, Mama. The shop is good. How are you?" Then she would hang up after a few minutes, because Tara was calling on the other line. One evening, after a dinner at an expensive restaurant where Sophia had eaten a meal that cost more than her mother made in 3 days of selling at the market, she sat with Tara and Vivian in the back of a taxi. The city lights blurred past the windows, and Sophia leaned her head back and said, almost to herself, "How do you two afford all of this?" There was a pause. Then Tara looked at Vivian, and something passed between them, a look so quick Sophia almost missed it. "We'll tell you," Tara said, her voice calm and even. "But not tonight. When you're ready." "I'm ready now," Sophia said. Vivian smiled slowly. "No," she said. "You're not. But you will be." The answer came 2 weeks later, on a quiet Sunday afternoon when the three of them were sitting in Tara's apartment. Tara made them tea and then sat across from Sophia with a look on her face that was part serious, part amused. "You want to know the truth?" she said. Sophia nodded. "Most of what you see online, the trips, the clothes, the hotels, we don't pay for it ourselves. There are men. Wealthy men. They like company. Nice company. And they pay very well for it." Sophia stared at them. For a moment she could not speak. Then she said, "You mean, we are not doing anything by force?" Vivian interrupted quickly. "These men are respectful. We are not on the street. This is private. Discreet. Expensive. Sophia shook her head slowly. No, she said. No, that is not something I can do. She stood up, gathered her bag, and left. But she could not stop thinking about it. That was the problem. She walked home replaying the conversation, and instead of feeling only disgust, she felt something she did not expect. She felt curious. She thought about the dinner the night before. The dress she had borrowed from Tara. The hotel rooms she had taken pictures in but never actually paid for. She thought about how much she wanted that life, not borrowed, not pretend. She wanted it for real. She wanted to stop helping in her aunt's jewelry shop for a small monthly allowance. She wanted her own apartment. Her own clothes. Her own trips. And deep inside that wanting, a voice that should have been loud was barely a whisper. This is wrong, it said. But the hunger was louder. And Sophia, who had never learned to be patient, made the worst decision of her life. She went back and said yes. From the outside, Sophia's life looked extraordinary. Her Instagram page was full of stunning photographs, her laughing on a hotel balcony in a flowing dress, her standing beside a private pool, her holding a glass of something sparkling at a rooftop dinner, her boarding a small plane with oversized sunglasses and a designer carry-on bag. Her followers grew to tens of thousands. She received comments every day from girls who said things like, "You're living my dream life," and "I want to be you," and * goals. Sophia would read those comments and smile, but even as she smiled, something quiet and uncomfortable lived in a corner of her chest that she could never quite reach. She had her own apartment now, a small but stylish place with white walls and good furniture. She had clothes. Real ones, with labels. She had shoes arranged in a row by the door and jewelry in a glass dish on the dresser. She had money saved in a bank account and more coming in regularly. She traveled to different cities on weekends and once spent 5 days in another country, posting photographs that made the whole trip look like a dream vacation. Nobody who followed her online had any idea what was behind the photographs. Nobody saw the moments before and after the camera clicked, the silences, the loneliness, the times she sat in a hotel bathroom and stared at the tiles and felt empty in a way she could not describe. Auntie Grace knew something was wrong long before Sophia stopped coming to the shop regularly. "She is changing," she told a friend on the phone one afternoon. "I can see it in her eyes when she visits. She is there but she is not there. Something has taken her mind and I cannot reach it." She tried talking to Sophia, sitting her down at the kitchen table the way she had done when Sophia first arrived. "Whatever you are doing out there," Auntie Grace said carefully, "I need you to think about your life. Not just today. Not just next month. Think about who you want to be in 10 years. Think about your mother." Sophia looked at her aunt with affection but with a distance in her gaze that broke Auntie Grace's heart. "I'm fine, Auntie," she said. "I'm really fine. Stop worrying." And Auntie Grace had to let her go, because you cannot force someone to see a fire while they are still enjoying the warmth. Margaret called one Saturday morning when Sophia was preparing to travel again. Sophia answered and her mother's voice came through the phone, warm, a little tired, but full of love as always. "Sophia, my daughter. I miss your voice. How is the shop? Is Auntie Grace keeping you busy?" Sophia felt a familiar pull in her chest. "Yes, Mama. Everything is fine. I'm learning a lot." Good, Margaret said. "I sold well at the market this week. I've been saving a little, hoping to come and visit you one day." Sophia closed her eyes. The lie she had just told sat heavy in her stomach. "I'd like that, Mama," she said softly. There was a pause, and then Margaret said, "Sophia, you know I love you. Whatever happens in life, come home when you need to. We don't need money to love each other." Sophia's throat tightened. "I know, Mama," she said. "I love you too." She hung up and stared at her packed bag in the corner of the room, and for one long, honest moment, she felt the full weight of who she was becoming. If you're still watching, it means Sophia's story is touching your heart. Take a moment to subscribe and leave a red heart in the comments if you believe that hard work is better than shortcuts. Trust me, what happens next in Sophia's life will shock you. His name was Daniel, and Sophia met him not at a party or a hotel lounge, but at a small cafe on an ordinary Wednesday afternoon. She had stopped in for coffee on her way to meet Tara, and he was sitting 2 tables away reading something on his laptop. He was not the loudest person in the room. He was not the most dressed. But when he looked up and their eyes met, something in his gaze was different from the men she had been meeting for the past year. He looked at her the way a person looks at something they genuinely find interesting, without hunger, without calculation, just curiosity and warmth. They talked for over an hour. He was a businessman, but not the kind Sophia was used to. He did not brag. He did not try to impress her with the names of places he had been or things he owned. He asked her questions and actually listened to her answers. He laughed easily and without performance. When Sophia said something thoughtful, he nodded slowly, as if he was really considering it. She missed the meeting with Tara and did not even notice until she was already walking home. She felt something she had not felt in a very long time. She felt seen. Not for her face. Not for her photographs. Just for herself. They began meeting regularly. He took her to quiet restaurants and to markets and once to an outdoor concert where they sat on the grass and talked for so long they missed half the performance. Daniel knew nothing of her other life. He knew she worked with her aunt in a jewelry business. He knew she had grown up in a village with a hardworking mother. He knew she was smart and funny and sometimes sad in a way she tried to hide. And he loved every part of what he knew. Sophia, for her part, began pulling back from Tara and Vivian slowly, quietly, without explanation. She told them she was busy. She stopped attending the events. She began spending her evenings cooking in her apartment instead of going out, and for the first time in a long time, the evenings felt peaceful instead of hollow. When Daniel told her he loved her, Sophia cried. Not because she was sad, but because she was terrified. Because she knew that love like this was real and fragile and would not survive the truth. She sat across from him at her kitchen table and held his words in her hands like something made of glass. "I love you too," she said quietly. And she meant it completely. She had never meant anything more. She made a decision that night, sitting alone after he had gone home. She was going to stop. She was going to walk away from the life she had built in the dark and step toward this new one. She did not know how much it would cost her. She did not know what was already coming for her in the silence. She just knew that she wanted to be the woman Daniel believed she was. Daniel proposed on a calm Friday evening on the rooftop of a restaurant that Sophia did not know he had specifically chosen because she had once mentioned she liked being able to see the city lights from high up. He remembered. That was the thing about Daniel, he remembered. He remembered the small things she said in passing, the tiny details she shared without thinking. He had reserved the rooftop, placed a single candle on the table, and asked the waiter to bring her favorite drink before she arrived. When she stepped out and saw it all, she stopped walking and covered her mouth with both hands. He got down on one knee and looked up at her. "Sophia," he said, his voice steady but warm, "I don't want a perfect woman. I want you. With all your complicated pieces. I want to spend my life learning you, if you let me." Sophia was crying before he finished speaking. "Yes," she said. "Yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger and stood and held her, and she pressed her face into his shoulder and breathed in deeply, as if she were trying to store this moment in her lungs forever. Around them, the other people on the rooftop began to clap, and Sophia laughed through her tears, a laugh so genuine it surprised even her. She called Auntie Grace that same night, her voice still trembling with joy. Auntie Grace screamed with delight and said, "Sophia. Oh, thank God. I am so happy for you." Then she paused and said, "Have you told your mother?" And Sophia went quiet. "Not yet," she said. "I'll call her tomorrow." But when she called Margaret the next morning, her mother burst into tears so quickly that Sophia started crying too. "My daughter," Margaret kept saying. "My daughter. God is good." And Sophia felt the words fill up every hollow space inside her. She sat on her bed and looked out the window at the morning sky and thought, this is it. This is the life I should have been working toward all along. The wedding planning began quietly and simply, because that was the kind of people they were trying to be. Daniel's family welcomed Sophia warmly. Margaret began saving toward her wedding outfit from the village. Auntie Grace offered to host the introduction ceremony. Everything felt like it was finally falling into place, like scattered pieces of a puzzle slowly finding their positions. Sophia stopped speaking to Tara and Vivian completely. She had not told them about Daniel, and she did not plan to. That part of her life was over. She had decided. She had chosen. She was ready to begin again. But life, as it sometimes does, had something else waiting in the quiet. It started with a headache that would not go away. Sophia assumed it was stress from the wedding preparations. She took painkillers and rested and told Daniel she was fine when he asked. But the headache returned the next day, and the day after that, and then the tiredness came, a deep, heavy kind of tiredness that sleep could not fix. She would wake up in the morning feeling like she had not slept at all. Her appetite disappeared. She lost weight in a way that people began to notice. "You look thin," Auntie Grace said one afternoon, studying her face. "Are you eating?" Sophia waved a hand. "Wedding stress, Auntie. You know how it is." But it was not wedding stress. 3 weeks after the first headache, Sophia collapsed in her apartment while reaching for something on a shelf. She woke up on the floor and lay there for several minutes, staring at the ceiling, before she was able to get up. She called Daniel that evening and told him what had happened, and he drove to her apartment immediately, his face tight with worry. "We are going to the hospital," he said. "Tonight." Sophia tried to protest. He looked at her in a way that ended the conversation. They went. The doctors ran tests. Then more tests. The first set of results came back, and the doctor asked Sophia to come in with a support person. She brought Daniel. They sat in the doctor's office in 2 plastic chairs and listened to words that rearranged the entire world. The illness was serious. It had been developing quietly for some time, the kind of condition that lives in silence and only announces itself when it has already taken root. The doctor was gentle and careful, but there was no version of the news that was soft. Sophia held Daniel's hand and listened and felt something drain out of her, not fear, not yet, but a strange calm that sometimes comes before the full weight of something lands. She asked the doctor to leave them alone for a moment, and when the door clicked shut, she turned to Daniel. She was not crying. She looked at him steadily and said, "I need to tell you some things. About who I was before you." Daniel looked back at her. "Tell me," he said simply. And Sophia, for the first time in many years, told the truth. All of it. She watched his face while she spoke, the stillness in it, the effort it was taking him to stay present. When she finished, the room was quiet. Daniel breathed in slowly. Then he reached out and took her hand again. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. It was not forgiveness exactly. It was something closer to love in its fullest form, seeing someone completely and choosing to stay. The hospital room was small and the light was soft, and Margaret sat beside her daughter's bed every day from morning until visiting hours ended. She had come the moment Sophia called her, packed her small bag, borrowed travel money from a neighbor, and arrived at the city before dark with her eyes red from praying on the journey. When she walked through the hospital room door and saw Sophia lying in the bed, looking smaller than she remembered, Margaret made a sound that had no word for it, somewhere between a cry and a prayer, and went straight to her and held her and did not let go for a long time. Sophia looked at her mother's hands, the rough palms, the tired knuckles, the hands that had sorted peppers in the market before sunrise, that had washed clothes and cooked meals and carried goods so that Sophia would not go hungry. She held those hands in her own and wept. "Mama," she said, "I am so sorry. I had everything new and I couldn't see it. I was so busy looking far away that I couldn't see what was right in front of me." Margaret stroked her hair the way she had done when Sophia was a small child. "You are here now," she said. "You see it now. That is enough." But Sophia shook her head. "It is not enough, Mama. I wasted so much time. I ignored you for strangers who never even knew my real name. Auntie Grace came every other day, and she would sit by the bed and talk to Sophia about ordinary things, the jewelry shop, a neighbor's new baby, a recipe she had tried. She did not speak about the past or about the choices Sophia had made. But one afternoon, when it was just the two of them, Auntie Grace took Sophia's hand and said quietly, "I tried to warn you. Not because I wanted to control you. Because I could see where the road was going." Sophia nodded. "I know," she said. "I heard you. I just didn't listen." Auntie Grace smiled, a sad, tender smile. "The things I told you came from watching life for a long time. Some lessons cannot be taught. They can only be lived." Sophia looked at the ceiling. "I just wish I had lived them earlier," she said. Sophia's condition worsened in the final week. The doctors did everything they could. Daniel was there every evening, sitting beside her bed, reading to her, holding her hand through the nights. Margaret never left the hospital. Auntie Grace brought food and prayed quietly in the corner. On one of her last clear evenings, Sophia looked at all of them gathered in that small room, her mother, her aunts, the man who had loved her without conditions, and she understood, fully and finally, that this was the life she had been running past all along. Not the hotel rooms or the followers or the designer bags. This. People who would sit beside you in a hospital room and not ask for anything in return except for you to be there. She passed away on a morning when the light came through the window in long, quiet bars. Her mother was holding her hand. Daniel was on one side, Auntie Grace on the other. There was no dramatic last scene. There were no final speeches. Just the last breath of a young woman who had chased brightness in all the wrong directions and had only found it at the very end, in the ordinary, irreplaceable warmth of the people who loved her. The wedding dress that Auntie Grace had stored in the back of her wardrobe was never worn. The ring on Sophia's finger was buried with her, because Daniel said he could not take it back. Margaret returned to the village and placed a photograph of Sophia on the table beside her bed, and every morning when she woke up and every evening when she lay down, she spoke to it the way mothers speak to the children they can no longer reach. And somewhere, out there, a young girl is sitting in a small house scrolling through her phone, watching strangers live lives that glitter and shine. She does not know that some of those lives are borrowed. She does not know that some of those smiles cost more than money. She is just watching, and wanting, and dreaming of something bigger. If she could hear Sophia's story, perhaps she would put the phone down for a moment. Perhaps she would look across the room at whoever is sitting there, a mother, a grandmother, an aunt, and really look at them. And perhaps, if she is lucky, she would understand before it is too late what Sophia only understood at the end. Fame can be bought and sold. Followers will forget you by morning. Luxury has an expiry date. But the people who love you without reason, without reward, without filters, they are the rarest treasure life will ever offer you. Do not trade them for a spotlight that was never really yours. Thank you for watching until the end. If Sophia's story taught you something valuable, please subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone you care about. You never know who might need this lesson today. Remember, fame can fade, money can disappear, but the love of family is priceless.